You're listening to the Steven Tauriello Show, building a platform of liberty for people in search of truth with a dash of hope and a life worth living. The Steven Tauriello Show. And now, here's Steven.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. As always, thank you for tuning in. So you can hear a pin drop after Biden tells a handful of supporters in Minnesota that Bidenomics is just another way of saying the American dream. You can't get, it's like we're living in a George Orwell novel. It's seriously, one day, I'm telling you, maybe even be me, one day they're going to write a book about the times we're living in right now. We are most definitely living in some pretty historical times. And they're going to look back at this fraud. And they're going to be saying, what the hell were the American people thinking? And so Joe Biden on Wednesday traveled to Northfield, Minnesota to visit Dutch Greek farms to boast about his administration's investments in rural America. According to CBS Minnesota, Joe Biden announced more than $5 billion in investments to rural communities across the country. This is essentially buying votes. This is what they do. This is what he did back in 2022 in the midterms with the student loan relief, and this is what they do now. Every time during an election year, they will pass these massive spending bills. They will stuff spending bills with a bunch of pork so that all these senators, all these Congress people can all go back to their constituents and say, hey, look what I got you. Well, it's no different for Joe Biden. Joe Biden does the same thing. They all do it. It's all corrupt. But now, the House of Representatives passed a bill to send money to Israel, $14.5 billion, and they did exactly what I said. They sent it over there, knowing it's going to get vetoed, on the terms that the money that they send will be taken away from the IRS. So they did exactly what we talked about in the last episode, 2 episodes ago, whenever it was. And I totally agree with them doing that. I totally think that's the right move to do. Let the Democrats explain to the American people why they cannot take $14.5 billion from the $80 billion that was allotted to the IRS to send to Israel. Why do we need to print more money to send to Israel? That is like me taking out a loan to give to my neighbor to fix his car. We are borrowing money to loan to these other countries. It doesn't make sense. And so the Republicans in the House, believe it or not, all came together, sent a bill over to the Senate, and with the promise that it's going to get vetoed by President Biden, and it cuts $14.5 billion from the IRS to send to Israel. So let the Democrats in the Senate and the White House, let Joe Biden explain to the American people. It won't be Joe Biden. He'll just blame it on the Senate. He'll just throw the Senate under the bus. But the Senate's not going to pass it anyways. But, I mean, it shouldn't be really surprising to anybody that it is the party of anti-Semitism. The Democrat Party is filled with a bunch of anti-Semites. So it shouldn't be surprising to anybody that they would refuse to take money from the IRS to give to Israel. Mind you, the budget for the IRS, because of the quote-unquote Inflation Reduction Act that actually increased inflation, doubled their budget, hiring 87,000 IRS employees. We already went through it. You guys have probably heard this 1,000 times. So why is it impossible to take $14.5 billion to give to Israel? I don't know, but let the Democrats explain it. So anyways, this is something they do right before the election. They buy votes. And trust me, this White House is getting desperate. And desperate times calls for desperate measures. So the White House says of the $5 billion, $1.7 billion will go toward what it called climate-smart agriculture. And the hope is it will catch on with more farmers in Minnesota and beyond to help create more economic opportunities while combating climate change, the outlet reported. I was going to say that had to be the outlet because that's definitely not a quote from Joe Biden. You guys notice whenever none of these outlets quote Joe Biden directly? None of them. If they quote Joe Biden, it's only like 4 or 5 words. Is that not freaking sad, dude? Like, we have a president that cannot complete sentences, and so the media bails him out by completing his sentences in their articles. So 81 million vote recipient spoke to the poultry crowd at a family hog farm in Northfield. Biden won Minnesota by a 7.12% margin in 2020 against Trump, yet has virtually no supporters at Wednesday's speaking event. And here is a picture, and there's literally like 8 people. It's empty. No supporters line the streets in Minnesota to see Joe Biden, the most popular president in U.S. history. This is one of the anomalies that nobody can seem to wrap their head around. How is it a guy that got more votes than any president in U.S. history doesn't have any supporters at any of his rallies? You can hardly find any bumper stickers on anybody's cars, no signs in the yard, no flags flying on trucks, no nothing. It is truly incredible, and in fact, I actually see cars on my way to work that actually took their Biden-Harris stickers off. So that means these people took the time to go out into their driveway and scrape their Biden-Harris sticker off the back of their bumper. Again, this is one of those anomalies that just convinces people, it just makes people question the election. And it's just one anomaly. We had more anomalies, more irregularities in that election than any other election in U.S. history. So they sit and they browbeat anybody that questions the 2020 election. That was a very highly questionable election, period. That doesn't mean that you're some type of MAGA extremist and need to be locked up in the gulag. Like, there's a reason why people were challenging that election. Not to mention that election was decided by 42,000 votes in 3 or 4 different states. You know, they act like Joe Biden won by this huge margin and that there is absolutely no way that any of these challenges could have worked and that no amount of fraud could have changed the outcome of that election. I'm sorry, 42,000 votes? Ladies and gentlemen, that is the size of a small town. There is absolutely enough fraud that could change the outcome of that election, no problem. We just seen it today. There's just an article coming out today. Let me finish this up first and we'll get into that. So just look at all those chairs lined up ready to seat all of the Joe Biden supporters. President Joe Biden expected to arrive at a farm near Northfield, talk about what his administration is doing to help rural America. 80-year-old Joe Biden delivered a low-energy speech. Quote, "Inflation's coming down. This is no accident. It's Bidenomics," Biden said. And I have the audio for that right here. Here, check this out.
Folks, Bidenomics is just another way of saying the American dream. 40 years ago, trickle-down economics limited the dream to those at the top. But I believe every American willing to work hard should be able to get a job, no matter where they live, in the heartland, in small towns, to raise their kids on a good paycheck and keep their roots where they grew up.
Are we serious with this? This guy sounds like he just stepped out of a nursing home after like a 2-week stint. Like, what the hell is going on here? And we're supposed to believe this guy is going to beat Donald Trump? There's no way. And this is exactly why they have to remove Donald Trump from the ballot. Is because of this. This audio right here. This picture explains everything. You look at this picture, you see this weak, feeble old fool behind a podium that can't speak, that can't get full sentences out, and there's nobody even there. He sounds like the grandpa sitting by the campfire with a blanket over his lap, talking to the kids. Like, we can't do this. It is unsustainable. And they know that. And that is exactly why, like I said, they're going after Donald Trump, trying to use the 14th Amendment, which is not going to happen. Well, it's going to happen, but it's not going to fly, folks. So there you go. So we're living in a real-life George Orwell novel. It's just like we're living in I don't know, man. It's like we're living in opposite world. I say this all the time, where the heroes are villains and the villains are heroes. What is right is wrong, and what's wrong is right. What's good is evil, and what's evil is good. It's complete opposite world. So for this guy to sit here and tell America that Bidenomics is working great and that everybody should not only appreciate Bidenomics, but should be thankful that Joe Biden has given us the economy that we have. Surely there's nobody out there that actually believes this. I really don't. I mean, I don't even see it. I see it on social media, but these people clearly know the economy's not good. They have no defense for the economy. Nobody can name one good thing Joe Biden has done. And like, I legit ask them, what has Joe Biden done to improve this country? Just name one. And they can't do it. So while we're out here suffering in squalor, Congress sneaks through a $34,000 pay raise for itself. Go figure. So I got an article here by a guest contributor by the WND.com, Bob Unruh. Bidenflation apparently isn't a worry to many members of Congress who are taking advantage of a $34,000 pay raise that they voted for themselves through an internal rule change that avoided the political backlash of openly allocating themselves more money, according to a new report. It is the Washington Free Beacon that noted taxpayers now are, quote, funding luxury housing accommodations for Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Democrat from New York, and over 200 other members of Congress, many of whom boast net worths of over $1 million. The added money comes through housing and meal subsidies, the report said. The change happened just as Democrats were about to lose their majority to the GOP. Democrats quietly tucked a provision into internal House rules that grants lawmakers access to an optional $34,000 annual subsidy, a subsidy to pay for their Washington, D.C. housing and meal expenses. $34,000 for Congress people? 34 grand, folks. That's like a full-time job. What are these people doing taking $34,000 from the taxpayers while the American people are out there having to decide whether they fill up their gas tank or get groceries? These people are sick, man. So far, 113 Democrats and 104 Republicans have taken at least some cash, costing taxpayers a combined $1.4 million just for the first half of 2023. Recipients of these funds include at least 17 millionaire Democrats, including Representative Katie Porter, who reported a net worth of up to $1.8 million in her latest financial disclosure, and House Minority Whip Catherine Clark, who boasts a net worth of $13.5 million, the report charged. This is what I'm talking about. How do these people come out of here millionaires? Could this be the reason why we have some of the worst people our country has to offer going into our Congress and becoming lawmakers? Is because it's a lucrative business. You can actually make a legit living, a good living, not legit. It's not legit at all. You can make a good living becoming a politician. So the change was made following complaints from members like Cortez, who said her $174,000 salary just isn't enough to maintain a home in her district and have housing in Washington too. Oh, well, where's my subsidy? You know, where's our subsidies? Where it's like these people are so they're not good people. AOC is not a good person. I've never met her, but I'm telling you right now, everything that I've read about this girl, this bartender how I have no clue became an elected official, she's not a good person. None of these people are. None of them. Republicans either. For the most part, like they see this country going down in flames. And so they're grabbing fistfuls of cash on their way out. They see this. They see government spending as not taxpayer money, but just an unlimited credit card that just gets replenished with money that's just created out of thin air. Because our money does get created out of thin air. It gets printed. And that's exactly why they said we're not printing anymore to send to Israel. And I agree. I support Israel wholeheartedly in what they're doing. There's been a lot of misinformation coming out of there. It is clearly the fog of war. And it is war, and war is not pretty. And when Israel says they're going to eradicate this terrorist organization so that it can preserve the citizens of their country, then I have no problem with that. And I have no problem with the carriers out there, but Colonel McGregor, that was on Tucker a couple times, he's been around. he made a pretty good point today I was listening to. And Israel's going to have to make a big choice because there's a lot of Middle Eastern countries breathing down their necks. And they may get into something they may get into something they're not going to be able to get out of. And neither will we. Because, the way that he was talking, and he's right. We are not the military we were in the 90s. We are not militarily more advanced than these other countries. We are a little bit, and in some cases a lot. But in other cases, these countries, they're not what they used to be 50 years ago. I mean, they now have technology that they didn't have 50 years ago, and in some cases the same technology we do, and in some cases better technology. With Russia and China having hypersonic technology, we don't. So, again, Israel needs to be careful, but that's a different subject for a different time. So let's get back to this. So the report noted others on the squad collected 14,000, Ilhan Omar 6,800, Rashida Tlaib 6,200, and Representative Jamal Bowman from New York was ordered to pay a $1,000 fine for intentionally setting off a fire alarm to disrupt House proceedings, and he took 6,200. So meanwhile, the report noted a Harvard study that found a record 21.6 million American households are spending more than 30% of their pre-tax income on rent, and Bidenflation has pushed up the cost of groceries 20% since Biden took office. The report said Matt Gaetz received the largest share of funds out of any lawmaker, having billed taxpayers nearly $17,000 from January through May to pay for his D.C. living expenses. Then Representative Mo Brooks from Alabama had opposed the pay raise. So Matt Gaetz, look, man, none of these people are perfect. That's what I want to get on my show. I want my listeners, I want you guys to know that I am here calling out everybody. I call out the whole damn system. Republicans, Democrats. My views and values align more with Republicans because I'm conservative. But not everything. And none of these people are perfect. Nobody is. This is something that Republicans and conservatives we can settle with that. We know people are not perfect. We understand there's no perfect person out there. This is why I think a lot of people are accepting of Donald Trump. Everybody knows Donald Trump's not a perfect man. This is what they tried doing in the very beginning. You guys remember they tried attacking Donald Trump's character, and America, Republicans and conservatives looked at each other like, what, the guy said grab him by the pee? Like, yeah, we talk about that stuff all the time in locker rooms. That's what people, it's like they tried the character assassination. You could see the escalation in tactics for the last 9 years. Like, we've seen it with the character assassination in 2015, and then now we're at imprisoning him for 710 years. So this was the rapid acceleration onto destroying Donald Trump. Here is a quote from Mo Brooks. You can have a good public policy debate on whether congressmen should be paid more in order to attract a better bunch, and you can have a reasonable debate on inflation adjustments. But it really ought to be done in public, Brooks said. That's my biggest beef, that it was a clandestine secret. Congressional rules allow lawmakers to expense up to $258 a day in lodging and $79 per day in meals without having to submit receipts. What? So these people can essentially make $258 plus $79. So these people can essentially make almost $350 a day. They don't even have to show receipts. What? Like, this is exactly why reasonable, rational people are like, yeah, dude, we can make spending cuts. Like, for Democrats to sit there and say, oh no, we can't afford to cut any spending anywhere. You can cut spending right here. I mean, let's just do the math. Just back of a napkin math. So we'll just say 300. All right? 300 times 365. That's $109,500 a day that these congresspeople can get with no receipts a year. And that's just one congressperson. So you times that by what? How many is there in Congress? 500 and something, like 540? Times that by 540? That's $59,130,000. So if every congressperson took their daily allotment for lodging and food, where they don't have to report with receipts. If every single one of them did that, you're talking about $59,130,000 from the taxpayers that the taxpayers would have to flip. And that's just allotments. That is just per diem. That is not their pay. So we're talking we're talking almost $1 billion just to pay the people in Congress every year. Like, that to me is insane. Well, let's just do it right here. We'll just say the average person is $175,000. That's what the average congressperson makes. That's the minimum. And times that by 540. That's $94,500,000 we pay just the congresspeople's salaries. So you add the, what was it? 109,300,000, 109. We'll just do that. That's $203,500,000 for the congresspeople's annual salary and their per diem that they don't have to show receipts for. And the reason why I mentioned don't show receipts for, because essentially these people could be taking this every day and they wouldn't even have to prove that they actually used it. So most likely, knowing how all these congresspeople are a bunch of frauds, they probably do that. And so you're talking $203,500,000 a year just in congresspeople's salary and their per diem. That is nothing else with the swamp. That is just Congress. Not to mention all their assistants. All of them have like 3 to 5 assistants. Hell, some of them have a whole entourage of people. Nancy Pelosi had like 20 people following her around everywhere she goes. So you're talking, I don't know, billions of dollars just to pay the people, that the lawmakers and their assistants and their per diem. That is not even anything else. That is not the whole Washington establishment swamp. The clerks, that is not any of the other positions that are taxpayer funded in our nation's capital. So this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say the swamp. Like, it is so big. In fact, the Washington, D.C. is the only thing adding jobs. Washington, D.C. is the fastest growing employer in the country. It's crazy. And they want to sit there and say that we can't make spending cuts? That, we've all had this idea about, if we really wanted to get stuff passed, just tell the congresspeople, tell the lawmakers up there, well, you won't get paid until this is passed. Like, maybe we should have their paychecks on the line and see how much stuff gets done. So look, it's clear and obvious that the swamp is bloated, it's wasteful, it's ineffective, it's inefficient. And that is just to say the least. That's not even talking about all the corruption. So this is something that I was reading right before I got on here. And this is, I don't know really what to think about this. So Ron DeSantis believes Trump should be excluded from election if convicted in ongoing bogus indictments by the Biden regime on MSNBC. I said this from the very beginning. Ron DeSantis should not have run. When Ron DeSantis should have backed out was as soon as Donald Trump went up into the polls. As soon as Donald Trump started going up into the polls, he should have backed out. Now this guy is ruining his political career. He is. And I don't know if he has any plans. This is his last term as governor here in Florida. Obviously he was counting on, he could have won the presidency. Like, if he just would have waited. If he just would have waited to the end of his term, he could have went in and took some type of spot close to Donald Trump in the White House. Someone on his cabinet. And then just at the end of the Trump term, he could have ran for president and he probably would have won. I don't know who Ron DeSantis is paying as an advisor, but a shame on that person for telling Ron DeSantis to get into this battle. But what I don't like is how all these Republicans are flying around like vultures, waiting for Donald Trump to either get locked up in prison or taken off the ballot or, whatever it is, because that's clearly what's happening. You don't hang in there when you have a Republican a candidate in your party that's at 55, 60 points above you. You don't do it. They're all hanging around like vultures. And I said this from day one. I think Ron DeSantis should have teamed up with Donald Trump, but now it's almost impossible at this point. I don't know how Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis could even. Nobody would accept them as a good team. They wouldn't pull in any new voters. I don't know how they would make it work. I don't. Maybe they would make a good team still. I don't know. This is what's crazy about politics. There's so much stuff that can change. So in a recent interview on MSNBC's Morning Joe, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis clarified his position on former President Donald Trump's potential nomination as the Republican Party's choice for the 2024 presidential elections in light of ongoing legal investigations. The conversation was prompted by host Willie Geist, who asked DeSantis about an earlier event in which all the GOP candidates, including DeSantis, were asked if they would support Trump even if he were to be convicted in court. During the first GOP debate for the 2024 presidential race, a crucial question was posed to the law-polling Republican candidates. Would they continue to support former President Donald Trump as the party's nominee even if he was convicted in a court of law? Yeah, why wouldn't they? Because we all know the convictions. We know all these cases are bullshit. You can't sit there and say, we're going to kneecap you with lawfare, and then everybody's going to have to accept it as legit. Everybody can see exactly what this is. Every single person in this country, even people that aren't even from here, illegal immigrants can look at this situation and be like, oh man, Donald Trump's being targeted by the justice system. Like, everybody can see it. So Brett Baier, the evening's moderator and Fox News anchor, asked presidential candidates, okay, whatever. This is where they asked all the candidates to raise their hand if you support Donald Trump after whatever it is. And he waited to see if everybody's hands raised, and then he raised his hand. Not exactly a good sign, but not necessarily like too bad. I mean, he could have been spacing out or something. Who knows? Who knows what the reason was? It didn't help his case, that's for sure. I mean, when you're trying to, the way I see debates is it's a job interview for the American people. It's the only time the American people get to compare and contrast everybody's ideas, how well they work with one another, what their ideas are, how they communicate, how good of a debater they are, and all that stuff. That's how I see debates. And it didn't help his cause that, he waited till everyone else raised their hand, and then he raised his hand. It didn't help. So here's the audio of Ron DeSantis on the Morning Blow show with Willie Geist asking a loaded question. Here, check this out.
And you did say, Governor, at that August debate when the question was put to the entire panel, if Donald Trump is convicted, will you still, and he is the nominee, would you still support him? And you raised your hand. You're a lawyer. You've served in the Navy. You were well trained at the greatest schools. Do you really believe that a man who's convicted of, say, attempting to overturn the 2020 election or taking nuclear secrets back to his beach club, do you actually still, as we sit here today, believe that person should be president?
Oh, they're so lucky they don't ask me that question. I would say, well, it'd probably be no different than me supporting, say, somebody that had classified documents, possibly nuclear secrets in his garage behind his midlife crisis Corvette. I'm telling you, these people are so awful. This is the prime example of exactly why the people don't like the fake news media, MSNBC, CNN, ABC, all these places. Because what the hell kind of question was that? Do you still support a convicted murderer, rapist, terrorist? Like, you might as well have just said that. Like, first of all, nobody knows about any damn nuclear secrets. I don't know why they keep saying this. Nobody even knows if any of the documents are classified. All the media is going off of is a picture of classified documents that were sprawled out on the floor that were leaked to the media. Those pictures could have been taken from anywhere. They said it was leaked by the FBI. And then another picture of a closet full of boxes of papers. And then somehow we go from that to nuclear secrets. So it's like, you can't. This is exactly why the people are moving toward alternative media. Because they can't stand this type of shit, man. Nobody actually thinks Donald Trump was stealing nuclear secrets and selling them to North Korea. Like, they try so hard to come up with the most egregious stuff when asking questions about Donald Trump. And then when someone says, how are you even supposed to answer that? Like, really? How are you supposed to answer that? Yes? That is like the when did you stop beating your wife question. It's like there's no good answer when you load the question like that. It's just it's just an example why nobody likes the media, man.
So I signed a pledge, Willie, and that pledge is what it is. Now, do I think somebody under those circumstances could get elected president? The answer is no. That will not happen. I think that Republican voters will understand that as we get closer to voting. But it would be fatal in a general election. And I don't think the party should nominate in that situation. However, I signed the pledge. I'm a Republican. I don't think it's going to come to that, and I think we'll get the job done like we need to. But the reality is I signed it, and that's what I did.
So you stand by that this morning?
Yeah, when I signed the pledge, I knew you never know what's going to happen. It's a crazy process. People make different decisions, and I think my point of view on it was, I'm participating in this process. I've got the plan to win. We're going to win. At the same time, it's like you can't just take your ball and go home. You can't on the one side of your mouth say the country's in decline, Biden's failing, and on the other hand say, I'm just going to pout if things don't go my way. So that was kind of my rationale for doing it.
Yeah, folks, this certainly doesn't help his case. I mean, look, man, when I say that these people are looking more and more like vultures flying in the air, waiting for waiting for Donald Trump to do something, like, I really mean it. These people, they seem desperate. They seem like they're vultures waiting for Donald Trump to get taken out. It's weird, and it doesn't help any of their cases, and I'll explain to you why. If any of these Republicans do not realize what time it is, more notably DeSantis knows what's going on. He knows all of these are political persecutions. Somebody, one of his advisors that he's paying a lot of money to, that's going to get paid regardless if he wins or not, probably the same guy that convinced him to run in the first place, somebody is telling him, do not stick up for Donald Trump. I don't know who it is, but you can just tell that Ron DeSantis wants to stick up for Donald Trump so bad, but he's sticking to the strategy. What that strategy is, I have no idea. Because as far as I'm concerned, he's finished. His political career is done. He's done as a governor. He'll never win another elected office again. But I don't see it as bad as a lot of people are trying to make it seem. The way I heard it was it's not going to happen. In other words, yes, if somebody were to be convicted of stealing nuclear secrets and selling them and all this other garbage that they claim Donald Trump did, then yeah, that person probably wouldn't be elected by the American people. Why? Because the American people aren't dumb. The American people would never do that. And this is exactly why Donald Trump's polls are skyrocketing, because the American people know Donald Trump hasn't done any of that stuff. And so I think that's exactly where DeSantis was standing. Kind of like, yeah, if somebody did do that, the American people probably wouldn't nominate him. The people wouldn't elect him as president because the American people aren't dumb. So in a way, I kind of like the way he answered it, but I don't. I think it was a perfect opportunity for him to come in and just absolutely roast MSNBC, roast this guy, Willie Geist, and just tear down their whole system, man. The reason why we are in the problem that we are in, the reason why we are watching the destruction of our country is because of the media. It's these people's fault, man. These people are the ones that could not accept Donald Trump won the 2016 election. They hated the fact that they were being called fake news. Even though they were fake news, maybe they shouldn't have lied and created fake news and they wouldn't have been called fake news. So their revenge against Donald Trump has turned into this obsession of getting Donald Trump. And so when these people say that Donald Trump is worse than Hitler, they have convinced themselves over the years with their bloodlust, their unquenchable thirst to get Donald Trump, that they actually believe it. I think some of them truly do believe he's worse than Hitler. And so if Ron DeSantis would have came out and he could have deflected that question bigger than hell, man. He had such a big opportunity to absolutely roast MSNBC and CNN, but, you know, he didn't, and this is exactly what happens when you listen to the wrong people. Ron DeSantis should have went with his gut. He should have followed his gut, because I truly do believe the guy is a hardcore conservative. I do believe he loves this country. I don't believe he is some George Soros plant. I don't believe any of the other stuff that was put out there by Laura Loomer and all them. I don't believe it. But he was listening to the wrong people. He shouldn't have ran for president. And when he was asked if he would be Donald Trump's VP, he should have said, absolutely, if he asked me to do it. But he came out kind of like goody two-shoe, like I'm too good for Donald Trump and his voters. Like, that's how he portrayed himself in the beginning. And now he's finished. And now every single one of these people just look like vultures flying around waiting for the king to go down. And it's disgusting. And what they don't realize is that if they manage to send Donald Trump to prison and interfere in our elections, none of them are going to win. The whole damn Republican Party will be disassembled. It will disintegrate. It'll be nothing. It will take generations for the Republican Party to ever get a win again. It'll take at least 2 decades if something like that were to happen. And so when I say that these people don't realize what time it is, they don't realize what time it is. Like, Mitch McConnell, the McCarthys, the DeSantises, they don't realize that the Democrats are not just destroying Donald Trump. They're destroying the entire damn Republican Party. Why? Because half of the damn Republican Party are Trump supporters. And if you go and you decapitate their candidate, you kneecap their candidate, and you allow the opposition to bury him, you're not getting any of their votes. You're talking about 80 million people. You're talking about 75, 76 million people, probably more now. The most popular president in U.S. history, other than Joe Biden, somehow, some way. They still want us to believe that. But none of these people seem to realize what time it is. Ron DeSantis should have came on there and said everything that just came out of your mouth is bullshit. And he should have said bullshit right there on the TV, because it would have got media attention. Ron DeSantis goes off on CNN reporter, or Ron DeSantis blows up on MSNBC host. And he should have roasted these people. He should have said exactly what I said. Everything you guys have propagated onto the American people for the last 8 years has been bullshit. You've lied to the American people. You misrepresent everything. You have an agenda. You're partisan. And you're fake news. And you are a failing media outlet that is failing because you lied to the American people consistently. And that's what I would have said to him. And then, boom, he probably would have got more votes doing that. His poll numbers probably would have spiked. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't know who he's listening to, but none of these people know what time it is. I think Ron DeSantis does, but he's not being himself. This is why he looks so robotic all the time. Like, everything is scripted. Everything is a preordained conclusion and answer to everything. It's, it is what it is. But I don't take that as bad as Jim Hoft does over there at Gateway Pundit. But Jim Hoft goes on to explain the governor went on to elaborate his stance, emphasizing unpredictability of political processes. He shared that his commitment to the pledge was in part because of his belief that the leaders should stay committed to their party and work together for the country's greater good. DeSantis expressed his belief that the Trump we're seeing in 2023 is fundamentally different from the one who ran for the presidency in 2016. He suggested that the focus seems to have shifted, with the campaign being more about Trump himself than the American people. You don't get it. This is what I'm talking about. People don't realize that attacking Donald Trump, this is why the American people get so offended. They don't understand the movement. By them going after Donald Trump is like them coming after the American people. These people don't understand. So by them weaponizing the justice system, lying about Donald Trump, trying to kneecap him and throw him in prison is like stealing from the American people. The American people feel like you're doing that to them. This is what they don't get. Why? because Donald Trump represented everything they believed in. Most of it. Donald Trump became the people. This is exactly why when Donald Trump talks, he's always saying we. We are in the polls, meaning me and you. These people just don't get it. The focus is on Donald Trump. Why? Is because Donald Trump is at the center of everything. Donald Trump, if they destroy Donald Trump, then that means they have officially destroyed our country, our democracy. Because 80, 90, 100, I don't know, maybe even more, maybe 120, half of the country will have watched and witnessed the Washington establishment take a sledgehammer to all of their government institutions, the government, their taxpayer-funded institutions. You would have destroyed our democracy. So in 8 years, these psychotic lunatics that are completely obsessed with Donald Trump have managed to take a sledgehammer to every single one of our institutions, between the justice, the intel, the elections, and the press. Just the Constitution, go down the list, violating people's rights, gun rights. I mean, it is so bad that the American people see Trump as their only hope. They don't trust anybody else. They don't trust a DeSantis. Listen, if Donald Trump was not running for president, DeSantis would win the election. That's what I think. But it wouldn't be as easy as he thinks, because Donald Trump, dude, I don't know what it is. The guy, he is the most famous person probably in human history. Like, Donald Trump's name is going to be in the history books for 1,000 years. You're talking about somebody that has turned into a legend, and not by him, by the media. They did this. All Donald Trump wanted to do was run a campaign, win the election, become president, help this country out, and then go retire off in peace. It was the media. It was their complete obsession of Donald Trump that has turned him into a freaking legend. Okay? It is, the media did all of this. This is all self-inflicted by the media. And so, look, Ron DeSantis had an opportunity. I just wish he would fire whoever he's taking advice from. It's, it's done. It's over, folks. It's done. The primaries are finished. These people need to pack up their bags, bring all their money to the table, get behind Donald Trump, and save the damn country. And their Republican Party, too. They talk about this Republican Party they love so much, but they don't realize that the Democrats are absolutely destroying it. And maybe they'll never get it. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll get it when it's too late. But by then it'll be too late. I don't know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all we got for today. I've got some other articles I wanted to get into. There was Tucker Carlson has been spotted going to see Julian Assange in prison. So I expect there's probably going to be some content coming from Julian Assange, and that is going to be epic. You want to talk about corruption in the deep state? This guy knows stuff that you wouldn't believe. They literally have somebody locked up because he knows all the government's secrets. This guy released everything. He knows everything from WikiLeaks. So expect something pretty wild from Tucker Carlson here in the next coming days or weeks. That was just put out today. Trying to think what else we have. A judge in Connecticut overturned election results from ballot stuffing. So go figure. There's video footage of a state worker, I believe, or a city worker. She was caught stuffing ballots in a ballot box. And so a judge has just ruled today that the results of the election will be overturned, and I guess they have to redo the election. It's funny how they couldn't do that for the presidential election. Huh. So I guess judges can make that call. Pretty weird. Pretty weird. Sounds like it was all a damn setup to me. Let's hope they don't try and do it again. But they're trying a whole different tactic now. Their tactic now is to remove him before people even have a chance to vote for him. And that, to me, is pretty terrifying, but also so damaging and so unconstitutional. So That's pretty incredible that a judge actually made a ruling to overturn an election, but yet we couldn't do it in 2020. It's pretty sad. And then Donald Trump's attorney, Alina Habba, joined Eric Bolling on Newsmax TV on Thursday following another court day in New York City where the attorney general filed charges against President Trump in a case with no victims and no crimes. New York Marxist AG Letitia James filed charges against Trump before defrauding lenders. Despite the fact there are no victims in the case and no banks were defrauded, everyone made money. The state wants a pilfer $250 million from the Trump family damages. And following today's hearing, Trump attorney Alina Habba told Newsmax the Biden Department of Justice is coordinating with the state AG's office to bring down President Trump. This was something I want to get into in the next episode. I'm doing the research for it right now. The Attorney General's office, the DOJ, and the White House have all been caught coordinating with one another to do this entire elaborate scheme to interfere in our elections. And it's pretty wild. I got documents, there's proof, there's messages, there's emails, there's witnesses, everything. So we're going to be getting into that tomorrow, so make sure you tune into that. It's going to be pretty interesting, and it's actually it's not shocking, but it's just so brazen. And we are going to do the show, and I'm going to blast it all out on social media so everybody can hear it. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for tuning in. If you could, I'd appreciate it. Find my Facebook page, follow it, and then also follow me on all social media platforms. I'm always trying to put out all kinds of content, memes, like TikTok clips, YouTube Shorts, and Facebook Reels. That's the new thing now. People's attention cannot span further than 3 minutes, and so they just figured we got to start making content that's a minute and 30 seconds long. And look, it is what it is, but it's just wild how social media is changing. It's changing the way people focus on things. It's pretty wild. It's changing people's attention span, and I think it's because the algorithm is so good that it keeps people's brains in peak gratification all the time. The algorithms are so good, they know exactly what you want to see, when you want to see it. And so as you're scrolling from video to video, so it knows the videos I like and it knows the videos you like. And so the goal is to keep people at peak maximum attention, but only for a minute and a half. And that is the goal. And it's doing some pretty wild stuff to the psyche. And that's something else I wanted to get into. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for tuning in. I will talk to you guys here in a little bit. I want you guys to have a good day. Have a great week. God bless you, and God bless America. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.